All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to Bleav in Rams, part of the Bleav Network. Erin Coscarelli back with you. Be sure to subscribe, comment, rate, follow this podcast. You can catch us on Bleav TV. Follow us on all the socials. You guys, I am so stoked. I have my good buddy, former NFL cornerback, six-time Pro Bowler, current analyst for the Las Vegas Raiders, and my former teammate, EA, Eric Allen, in the house. It is so good to see you. How are you doing, E?
I'm doing pretty good, Erin. It's football season, so everything revolves around the pigskin and the family. Everybody in the family knows that. Going on since 1988. I don't know how long that is. So since 1988, my September to February has been revolved around the National Football League at some aspect. So really good, feeling good, family's good. But as far as our teams are concerned, man, we got a lot to talk about. I'm not sure if 20 minutes is going to be enough.
There's a lot to unpack here. So I was Eric Allen's teammate for the Silver and Black Productions, covering the Vegas Raiders when they moved to Las Vegas in 2020. And it was a diabolical year. There were no fans in the stadium. It was crazy. But one of the things that was amazing was getting to work with you. You're such a good teacher. You're so patient. You're kind to the staff. I'm always watching how people treat staff and the crew. And you're just a wonderful person. You love your kids, your family. And it was always such a pleasure to work with you. So thank you for making the time to jump on with us. Because, we do. We have a lot to talk about here. That's for sure.
Right. I think those times are really important also because if you think about it, that was unlike anything, we have ever really been through, particularly the National Football League, and have to basically broadcast games, give the fan base an opportunity to feel what it's like to be in the stadiums. And that year was so incredible because remember, we had Drew Brees in the house. We had Tom Brady. I believe we had Josh Allen. We had a run of great quarterbacks that came to Allegiant, and we could hear all their checks. We could hear all the adjustments and everything. It was just so cool to all of us kind of being together and being in that 60, 70,000 seat stadium all by ourselves, basically, with our group and some of the other folks. But it was just a great time, I think, just to really get into some football, and just talk football, and really appreciate you and how you're able to kind of set us up all the time with great questions. And I learned a lot from that year, and it's helped me, kind of be a better just a better intermediary, I could say, between the fan base and the team.
Yeah. I mean, that was a crazy, and thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. That was a crazy year because no fans. It was COVID. Allegiant just opened this beautiful, if you haven't been to a game at Allegiant, it is a bucket list. You must check out. Allegiant is a beautiful experience. And Mark Davis, the owner, vowed not to be in the stadium until the fans could come back the following year. And we had to cover the team without meeting a player, shaking the hands of a player. We could not be they were on another floor and no one could get close to them for fear of COVID contamination. And it was, I remember too, our entire offensive line that went out at one point. I mean, it was just a wild west. But anyways, speaking of adversity, there's a lot to get to with this matchup on Sunday. But before we do, actually wanted to get your take on the Rams hosting the 2-4 Raiders here at SoFi. What was your reaction when you heard of the Davante Adams news?
Well, that's what we've been this whole offseason, is splashes across the media as far as all the off-season stuff and all the off-field stuff. And I'm a big fan of Devonte. And if you've been in this game long enough, fortunately I was, and you're in these situations. So I could personally identify kind of what he's going through. At the end of your career, not the end, but, at the tail end of your career, you want to be in meaningful football games. And that was one of the reasons I tried to get out of the situation I was in to get to the Raiders, because I wanted to be in meaningful football games, like in November and December, playing for something and understanding that we were going to be a playoff team, and hopefully for myself, wanting to get to the championship. And that's kind of what Davante is all about. You see, he has all the accolades off the field as far as, Pro Bowls, and just a tremendous football player. Is probably going to be a Hall of Famer. In the situation we're in right now, it's just not the best for someone like him when he has played with, arguably one of the best quarterbacks ever. So I understand his point, but from the Raiders standpoint, I also, have to understand and agree that, hey, if we can get something for this guy to build on the future for our football team, that's something we need to do. And Antonio Pierce right now is in a situation where he needs draft capital to, at some point, get a quarterback. Because we all know this game is about the quarterback position. And at this point right now, the Raiders, we're still searching for that kind of transformative, franchise guy.
Yeah. Well, could the transformation, there's a rumor floating around. Okay. Well, first and foremost, before I get into Bill Belichick, okay, so I'm planting that seed because I'm going to ask you about the Bill Belichick rumor. But before we go there, Tom Brady as an owner, it's a very interesting, and now, obviously he's in the broadcast booth. It's an interesting dynamic, but I'm not going to talk to you about that. I'm just going to talk to you about, how does what's your reaction to Tom being the owner? How does it help Raider Nation? And then, yes, of course, I want to get to the Bill Belichick question. But Tom Brady being in the building, I heard he was there this week. What's it like having Tom Brady there?
I just missed him like one day.
And oh, man.
Yeah, hopefully this week or, Monday or Tuesday, I'll get an opportunity to have a sit down and have a great interview with them. The last couple of years, I've been fortunate enough to kind of interview all the, big time guys, the head coaches, the pivotal players, and, Marcus Padilla, the head of our group, has done a really good job. I'm so excited. I just love the fact that, a player, of his stature has the ability to be, in the ownership group. It's so fast after retirement. And it's just really a new step in a new era, not just with our team, but, with the players, and how we've been able to overcome this huge gap of, ever, thinking about being owners of football teams. When, like I said, even, 10, 12 years ago, no one ever thought about, a National Football League player, so soon after retirement becoming, an owner. Of course, you had the owner of the Carolina Panthers, but that was years after he had played and he owned the football team, and he since sold the team. Richardson, I believe his name is. But to have arguably the best, quarterback to ever play the game, the best winner, obviously, and Tom Brady, to be a part of the ownership group is amazing. And it's probably a dream come true for him. But more importantly, for all those other outstanding football players, Patrick Mahomes and the rest of those guys, they have the vision now. So that's probably going to be, a dream of theirs to not only play in this league and win multiple Super Bowls, but at some point be on the ownership group, which is incredibly cool and just so great for Brady and for Raider Nation. I think, the Tuck rule will always be front and center when it comes down to, late December and early January. That's always going to be something that sticks in our, in our craw a little bit until we are able to, elevate and get to the championship and win one. But he's definitely have to answer some of those questions. That's going to be the number one question I asked him if I get that interview.
I was going to ask you, what are you going to ask Brady when you get him for that sit down? But, you make a great point. Just like you as a broadcaster, because you're a former player, you have the empathy to teach the fan base why Davante made the move he made. People can be upset about it, but, at the end of the day, you're playing for your family. Tackle football,
Yeah.
I say all the time, I advocate for these players. This is a hardcore physical sport. They got to make the decision that feels best for them and their family. And I think having a Brady in the ownership group is an opportunity to elevate and advocate for players. And I think
Yes.
it's important, not just because it's Tom Brady and he knows how to win, but he has the ability to understand what players need. And I'm really happy to see an owner sort of advocate, because he was a former player, much like you advocate for players because you know the game, you understand the game, you understand the decisions that come with playing the sport. And one of the big question marks heading into this interview is Bill Belichick potentially being a Raiders head coach. First and foremost, it's a rumor. I get it, but people are
Yeah.
saying that his, Brady's first move, which by the way would be absolutely
Oh man.
insane, like full circle moment if Bill
Yeah.
Belichick could be. But what's your thought on that? What's your take on that? I know you
I,
love Antonio Pierce.
yeah. I'm not sure this is the spot for him, and I could be
Yeah.
totally off base and totally wrong. I haven't spoken with anybody, but going back to last year, and I had a conversation with a really good friend of mine, and it was at the time when Coach Harbaugh, Jim, who's also a friend of mine, was thinking about was he going to leave Michigan, and obviously there are a couple of jobs open. He had a relationship with both organizations, being the Raiders and the Chargers, and I just thought at the time the Chargers were a better fit for Coach Harbaugh because of the personnel, where they were, the ownership group, and what they needed in their organization. They needed someone like Jim because the ownership group is kind of hands off as football things. So Jim can kind of get in and like, look, here's what we're going to be. We're going to be a physical football team. We're going to run the ball, and then on third down, if we can't run it, we're going to try and run it again. And then on third down, on second down, we're going to run it, and then we're going to run it again. So he could set that up.
Yeah.
With the Raiders, a little different. There's just the fan base really has a say-so in what happens with this football team. And I just thought AP was the better choice at that time because he had the backing of our best player in Maxx Crosby. He had support, of course, Devonte Adams and everyone else around the group. He just kind of oozed that Raider mystique. And in the locker room, I think all the alumni gravitated towards AP. And then some of the coaches that he had supporting him, Marvin Lewis, of course, and so many other really successful coaches, I thought he was the best fit for the Raiders. I'm just not sure Coach Belichick is fit for this Raiders football team at this moment right now. And so hopefully he gets an opportunity somewhere, but I just don't think he's the fit for our squad right now.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense, of course. And, the media loves to just make a mountain out of a molehill, guys. Take a chill pill. Let's calm down, everybody. I mean, but when I saw that rumor, I was like, oh my God, that would be absolutely wild.
That would be full circle.
Wild.
Full circle.
And by the way, I have to say, I am actually really loving Bill Belichick as like a media personality.
Too.
He is crushing it. We're getting a perspective from him that I didn't even know existed. I think he's great. But I will miss him.
Erin, to follow up on that, I always heard he was so cool, out of the building, away from football, had this great sense of humor. Of course, he just knows everything. He's just such a smart football guy, but just so buttoned up when it came to football. And but I had heard that so many times that he was just such a great guy. Obviously, friends of mine who've played for him, and like he's football 24/7. But once he's outside of those confines, he's a really chill and cool guy to be around.
Yeah. I want to get into this matchup, but real quick, Maxx Crosby. So obviously Davante Adams goes away. Now the big question mark, and what you just said, meaningful football, people are picking apart this quote that Crosby said. He said, I'm not here to rebuild. I'm here to win. And wherever I'm going to be here to win. I think that people are picking that apart, and maybe for good reason. Why does Crosby get all of this attention, you think, when it feels unsolicited,
Yeah.
and you got to be frustrated as a player to
Oh,
constantly be the core of all of this attention.
yeah. And Max is an incredible football player who's overcome, things in, his personal life. And
Yeah,
the Raider Nation buys into that. And they should,
yeah,
because it doesn't matter what era of Raider football he could have played, for us. He could have played for the Raiders. And first and foremost, I think we all appreciate him about his honesty, and anything that is felt nowadays. You have a podcast, or you go on a podcast, and you're gonna kind of air out your feelings, and that's okay.
hmm,
That's one of the situations that Devonte felt he was kind of accused of, in the receiver situation, when he was honest, like, hey man, I'm gonna get killed out here, man. So, but when you get down to Max, he wants to have this organization be at the top level like he is. He always wants the best for this brand. And it's very important that he continues to hold everyone in this organization to a higher standard. And it's not about rebuilding, it's about retooling. It's about figuring out how you can be your best. And if you see him practice every single day, if you see him play every single play,
yeah,
you have, if you're around him, you're going to feel that pressure. And
yeah.
it's very important that people understand he is trying to provide positive pressure on this organization, not
Hmm.
to wait and settle, because we're all running out of time.
Yeah.
Every day
Hmm.
that you lose trying to get better, it's a day wasted just being normal. And he wants to put that pressure on everyone. And as soon
Yeah.
as you walk into this building, you feel that sense of urgency about you. And I think it's just that. It's
Yeah.
He's trying to put urgency on the coaching staff, on the ownership. And it
I'm
doesn't
sure.
matter. Every day is a day that you can win.
Well, and I'm sure it just gets frustrating when you constantly hear
Yeah.
the word rebuild,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Rebuild, rebuild. And it's like now you guys have Aiden, and uh you've moved on from Gardner Minshew. And it's frustrating because it feels like the Raiders are often in this position.
Yeah. Yep.
And not for lack of trying. They've really made such good efforts, but it just doesn't end up, for whatever reason, executing in the win column. And
Yeah.
let's talk about this matchup, because I really want to get your take on the Rams defense. So both of these teams are, I mean, their injury report
Yeah.
is just as long. And the Raiders are 2-4 coming into this matchup. The Rams 1-4. Both teams banged up. But I guess the big question mark for me that I want to ask is, this defense, this Rams defense, the big void was trying to fill Aaron Donald's
Yeah.
absence now.
Right.
From your perspective, what is going on? What's happening with the Rams defense? Because a lot of, you can blame it on injuries, but is it also poor execution and just
Yeah.
youth?
Yeah. It really is. And it's so difficult to try to cover up what Aaron Donald was able to mask. So when you have a player of
Mhm.
Aaron Donald's greatness, and believe me, I've been around some great players, and Reggie White was someone that the opposing team had to always circle. So Aaron Donald's someone you have to circle. And it helps the second level, meaning the linebackers, the strong safeties. If he's in the box, you're gonna have a double team on Aaron Donald. So now the edge rusher is going to have one-on-one opportunities. So offensive coordinator's focus is going to be on first protection. And when we're in the run game, we have to find a way to double Aaron and make sure whoever that best edge guy is, doesn't wreck the play. So
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
gives freedom for the linebackers to be able to roam from sideline to sideline, basically without being touched. So that gives those guys opportunities to be on one, with the running back, and you make a one-on-one tackle, you look great. On the back end, it gives you chances to take opportunities at routes because you know the ball is going to come out fast in the passing game. So now the secondary is kind of covered, particularly in the middle of the football field, because the quarterback has to get rid of the ball because the offense is all formulated to protect the quarterback from Aaron Donald. So when you take him away, the first thing you see is, wow, man, the running backs are gaining a little more yardage here. So now I have to bring the strong safety into the box to stop the run. So that opens up the middle of the football field. And I think that's the one area that we've seen numbers-wise, statistically, that the tight ends are really having great success against the Rams right now because they have to avoid the middle of the football field to protect the run. Because obviously, everybody knows, you have to stop the run first before you can become a good, solid defense. So right now, they're trying to adjust not having that dominant force to be able to kind of wreck the offensive game plan. And it's showing up right now with the amount of receptions and success that tight ends are having for the Rams. Bingo. Our best offensive weapon so far for the Raiders is Brock Bowers, young player out of Georgia, one of the best tight ends to ever play college football. Right now, the most targeted receiver for the Raiders. And we are going to have to utilize him again in the middle of football field, hopefully against this Rams defense that has been giving up great numbers for the tight end. So I'm not offensive coordinator right now, but I know if one team is struggling in the middle of football field and we have the most targeted tight end in the game right now, one-on-one sometimes equals two. So I'm throwing the ball to the tight end.
No, you're absolutely right. The Rams defense is 29th in points per game allowed. And I appreciate that because that was going to be, I'm glad you combined that answer. I wanted to get your analysis of what you thought the X factor was going to be. A lot of question marks for this team's future, both of them, heading into this matchup, because you have to wonder, is this, if these teams both lose, at least for the Rams, is this like, all right, we're rebuilding now? And it, like, when you have a Stafford on the roster, that's got to be a frustrating feeling. Eric, I'm so grateful I got some time with you. Thank you so much. I know you're busy. I'm going to let you go, but good luck this weekend. And I really appreciate you making the time. Thanks again. EA, I miss you. Tell the fam hi for me.
I miss you. And hopefully this year, after the Hall of Fame stuff, and hopefully I make it, I'm going to come back on and we can talk about all the great days of the Eagles and the Raiders.
Oh my God. I cannot wait. So it would be the most well-deserved anointment for you, because you're as talented as you are on the football field. You're such a kind person off the football field, and you treat everybody wonderfully. I was just so grateful to be in the studio with you talking football. All right, Eric Allen, thank you again so much. I appreciate the time, and I will see you soon. Okay.
All right. Take care.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, matchup, breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. By the way, the Rams favored by 7 at home against the Raiders. FYI, just wanted to subtly drop that. So make sure to check out their website. They have the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, Major League Baseball, playoffs, NHL, NBA, and so many things. Okay, guys? And when the game's over, head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack, poker, our 150 slot games. There's lots of action there. And yes, it is America's most trusted site for online wagering. So BetOnline, the game starts here. Get in and go over and check it out. All right, guys. So stoked for today's episode.